Hello and welcome to Dateline New Haven on WNHA's New Haven's home for community radio. I'm Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make our community tick. It's Pundit Thursday, everybody.
Woo woo! You said Punday.
Punday. We have
Punday.
the leading lights in New Haven journalism helping us understand what happened this past week and what it all means looking forward. We have inner city news editor, Love Babs, Love Talk host, and woman everywhere in town, and then some Babs Earls Ivy. The veteran journalist and mentor of the next generation, Markeisha Ricks.
Hola.
And New Haven Arts Paper
Yeah.
editor.
You're going to change it every week.
Yeah.
Lucy Gelman.
Woman in charge.
who-
All right.
If you're anywhere in New Haven and news is happening, you're going to see Lucy there. Welcome, everybody.
HWIC.
Hey, wait a second. I think we screwed up.
What we do?
Uh-oh.
Harry, I can't really hear in my headset. Ruh-roh.
That's about.
Anyway, I think we screwed up.
Oh, there we go.
I think we
there
screwed
we
up,
are.
everybody.
Okay.
What do
Uh-oh.
we do?
We were supposed to meet at noon to start the show.
But it's noon 5.
Well, I think it's 11 or 1, right?
Oh, you think daylight savings time got us messed up?
Yes. As I understood that the
Well,
U.S.
according
Senate
to that clock up
yesterday,
there, it's almost 6 o'clock. at night.
nobody was talking about daylight savings time. And then all of a sudden, there was, without anyone expecting it, including some of the senators themselves, the U.S. Senate passed by a voice vote, no debate, no committee process to get rid of the change in the clocks. And they're not really getting rid of daylight savings time. What they're saying is every state can decide either one or the other.
Do you know what this is
But
going to do
you're
to
not going to
airline
change the
traffic?
clocks.
This is
So
like
now
Roe v. Wade.
everybody's talking about it. And so that's why, and I'm still confused about last week's daylight savings time, to tell you the truth. When we switched the clocks, spring forward, I'm still like thinking it's a different time. But what do you folks think? Actually, I have opinions. Everyone has an opinion on this. And this was a bipartisan thing, like Kristen Sinema, the Republicans, the Democrats. They say everyone's sick of changing the clocks, but it's not so simple because we've got to decide which one we want. We want the staying dark till later in the morning, or do you want it staying late to later at night?
I find like this is a distraction for some real issues.
Right. Like,
Right.
Oh, let's just
We can't have a basic health system,
like look,
basic tax
something we
fairness
agree
system,
on.
That's right.
so that
Child care, yeah.
we can take care of those clocks.
Like,
Yeah.
look, there's something we agree on. See, we can work together.
So we do agree about that aspect, but I'm still curious what you guys think.
I don't like that they leave it in the hands of states.
Oh yeah?
Just have them turn your headset.
He already
down.
did that, and I think he had to turn it up. That's why y'all couldn't
Oh.
hear.
Oh,
I don't
I'm sorry.
like I don't like leaving it in the states' hands. I think if you're gonna do it, just make it make it a federal.
So say the country should have one thing because
Yes.
Marquise was talking about flights.
It's gonna be a pain in the butt.
Well, I will say this. Already in the state of Alabama, there is a part of that state that stays on the that I don't know. I don't think it's the daylight savings, but they're on whatever. So, Alabama's technically central time zone, but there's a slice of Alabama that's closer to Georgia that stays on the eastern time zone. So
That's
I've
confusing.
never asked them how
And
they
Russia has
navigate
11
that, but they
time
do
zones,
that.
by the way. And
Oh, gosh.
Arizona doesn't switch the clocks.
Right.
So I guess they know how to do it.
So there is a real issue here, which is that kids, if you go to the time change that always has to stay later, and you'll never have 4:30 sundown, it'll always be 5:30 at the earliest or 5 o'clock. Kids wait for the bus in the dark at 8 a.m., little kids. I mean, at 8 a.m., it's still dark. Sometimes they're 7 at least. Kids are going to be out there in the dark, and people think that's not safe.
This is always an interesting thing to me because if you've ever been to other countries during their school seasons, their schools go to school in shifts.
Yeah.
So like some kids go to school at a different time. Like, so kids are always kind of at school up until a certain point of the day. So America's is the only place that says that everybody has to be at school at 7:30 in the morning or something ridiculous
Which
like
is
that.
really early. And we have the
it's-
older kids going to school
And we
earlier.
know
when they're-
studies show that
Yeah, that's
making
not good.
certain kids go to school very early is actually bad for their
Especially
brains.
teenagers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, much like we talked about last week and how we thought the pandemic might blow up the way we do anything, like why are we so like we have to all do it this way or it's just no.
But what about
we can't
time?
do it.
Should we have the same time?
I'm fine with us deciding to have the same time as a country, but what I don't understand is like why we peg it to weird things, right?
Yeah.
Like we say we can't like this thing is like we can change the way we do time, but it's unchangeable in regards to this specific thing, or it's going to create a specific problem for this that we are so incapable
And to
of
your
solving.
point, the reasons that have been given for daylight savings time, which started World War I, have all turned out not to be true. Like we suspended a bunch of years ago, saying this will help us save energy. We didn't
Or it
save
was
energy,
farmers.
and the farmers is no longer mostly agriculture.
Well, we're about to have World War III, so maybe this might be. We might get it right.
The point might be moot. Like, what time you blow up? Oh wait, Putin, hold back those bombs. My watch says 3
And be like,
o'clock.
it was daylight savings times when they blew up this thing.
Right? Yeah, I feel like I kind of agree with Babs. It's a grand distraction,
Yeah.
and if there are things like well, we don't feel safe having kids wait for the bus in the dark. That
Then
has
don't
less to
make
do with your
them work.
clock.
Less to
Right.
wait.
And
Stand
that
outside
has
in the
much
dark.
more, like, one, why don't you feel that the streets are safe in your neighborhood? And don't
No, I was
tell
talking
me-
about cars getting hit.
Well,
But again, if
Oh,
that
that's
goes
still
to
to your
road,
point.
exactly, that's our point.
enforce better traffic enforcement. We talked about
It's not even
you
better
know,
traffic enforcement; it's better road design.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
there you
that's
go.
right. That's right. Yeah,
not
we
either
talked
or.
about just the chronic underfunding of things like the DOT and public transportation yesterday, and
It's fixing the hard
last
stuff.
week,
This
sorry,
is
not
low
yesterday.
hanging fruit.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I agree with everything you're saying, but I have a different stake on it.
Give us a
Okay,
different
okay.
take.
I love when it gets dark earlier. I like the
But
night.
here's the thing.
well, you're
it's
the
gonna,
only one.
But
I-
no,
I
so
think-
I'm sorry.
here's the thing that it's always gonna get dark earlier because of the access of the earth. It doesn't
But I
matter
like
what
that time.
time we
I feel
say
like it's
that
a gift
is.
for me when it's 4:30 or 4.
The sun's still gonna go down, and you're still gonna be Jewish, and you still gonna have to get in the house when
Yeah.
you're supposed to.
No,
Like,
actually, this will mean if they do it the way they want it for later, I'll never have that Friday crazy thing with the deadline where Elliker thinks they could trick us by like having it go
Oh,
at
that's a good
4:30.
thing for you, isn't
But
it?
for me, the starkness of the light is all about duty, and the darkness of the night is all about beauty.
Oh, that's beautiful, Paul.
That's beautiful. You're a poet.
I don't know, but I'm a pundit.
Pandemic
Because you're listening,
poet,
you're
yeah.
listening to Thursday Pundits on WNHH FM, where we're running down the headlines of the week. And even though you Paul's pointed out that's the most important issue facing humanity right now, there was some other news this week.
Really?
So I want to give you folks 2 random stories that appear to have nothing to do with each other. By doing that, I'm obviously telling you that I think they're connected. Okay?
Yes,
Okay.
subtle.
So on Tuesday, everyone at the Capitol agreed about something else besides changing the clocks. Democrats, Republicans, and then Governor Lamont, who you can't call a Democrat, but you can't always call a Republican. They all agreed that we need to
Ouch.
have a gas tax holiday. We're going to get rid of that gas tax for at least 3 months because of inflation and the war, so that people pay too much at the pump. So they're saying that for 3 months, you're going to pay 25 cents less a gallon. On Wednesday, for 2 hours, child care centers shut down around the state. Babs had a whole show on it. I'd be shocked if Lucy wasn't there in the green in the morning. I won't say anything. Okay, so the child care organizers, early ed people came on the green and said, this is what happens if you don't have child care, and that the state is underfunding us to the tune of $700 million. There's a crisis in child care centers. Centers are closing down a lot, and they're going to continue to close down. They say, at least can you send us the $300 million that can keep people employed? Because the people want to come. We have the centers, but we can't keep functioning. We need the money. Do you folks see a connection between those two? I saw Lucy.
Go ahead, Lucy.
Oh no. Well, I want other people to weigh in.
No
Right.
way in. There's
No,
not other
You're a
no.
people.
pundit.
That's not how
Lucy,
this
you're a
works.
pundit. You don't get to get off the hook.
Well, I don't want to go off on my child care bandwagon.
Go on
'cause
your child bandwagon.
No,
This is
'cause
the
once I
place for
start-
the bandwagon.
The
As a matter
way,
of fact, we're all hitched right here. We hitched our
the way,
bandwagon.
no, I
We've all
I
parked our
agree
horses
with,
outside.
with everything that people said on the green, and also with everything that was said on Babs's show. So I don't know how much more there is.
Oh,
to
so you're
add.
talking about the value of child care. That even though some of our companies made a point that I think is quite wrong. They're saying this is about poor people who shouldn't have so many kids, or that
Oh,
Who
This
says
is a-
that?
Oh,
Somebody
during-
said that.
during-
during,
right-wing
during
I'm about to have an
testimonies-
aneurysm.
I mean, they have a
No, I mean,
tiny
during-
speck
yeah.
of a point that sometimes people have kids when they're not ready.
and
but
aren't these the same people that don't want you to be able to have a legal, safe abortion?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. But the big issue is that 80% of people have trouble
Tired.
paying for childcare, and that you can't. I think this is the stuff we all agree with, right? It's hard if we want people to work, and then we're saying, hey, don't be on welfare, folks. Work.
want you to work.
If you bringing up a kid is enough of a job. You got to be at a job. So you got to go take it. That's why a lot of people got COVID, right? Who were working class because they had to keep going to jobs. And so for childcare enables people to work. People work in childcare. Kids benefit from childcare. I mean, childcare is good for society and it's good for the economy. And the part that we care less about, but seems to drive policy, it's actually good for numbers. It's good for the economy, money-wise, to have people working and putting money back into the economy and people having the childcare jobs and being able to jobs because they have childcare. So that's the easy part, right? We all agree with that. But that came a day after we said that we can take a big chunk of money out of the state budget to have people pay less for gas for a little while.
And
So-
if they're saving
that-
on gas, can they pay for childcare? Like,
and
what's
that's the thing,
happening?
25 cents a gallon, even if you drive
God.
the biggest gas guzzler in the Western Hemisphere, whatever time zone you're in, that's not going to be enough to pay for childcare.
Right.
And I thought that was such a connected pair of stories that our state now is flush with money.
Mhm. We have
And they're not
surplus.
wrong to say people are hurt by inflation.
But
So they want some help with inflation. So it's all about an even number year everywhere in the country. They're running for re-election. Gas is an easy way for people to say you're paying more at the pump without thinking about the deeper issues because it's a real thing they're paying. It never is going to add up to a difference in most people's lives in any way that compares what the difference would be if we more adequately funded childcare.
I don't know why we keep saying we care about kids when clearly
We
We
do
don't-
not.
We don't care about kids.
don't
We don't
care
care
about
about
kids.
parents.
let
And we
them
don't.
go to work. Put
So
all
the
these other kids
childcare
go
thing-
go to work in a
So
factory.
you're saying it's not sexy to talk about childcare politically?
No, it's not sexy. But what I was going to say is that it's just it baffles me that we're always a country that it's always an either or proposition. It's never both and. It's never. We actually need to even if we said don't care about kids, not for real,
Yeah.
but we care about people going to work. We
Yeah.
care about that. What are the policies that we could create
Yep.
that ensure the most people who can be and want to be in the workforce can do so? They know their kids are safe. If I know my kids are safe, I can go to work. If I know I have a place to sleep at night that I can afford, I can go to work. Like there's so many things. Like not only do you not care about people at work, like how they're suffering at work by not paying them a living wage in a lot of cases. So they're working 2-3 jobs. You don't pay them enough to pay for childcare. You don't pay them enough to drive high like gas prices. What is happening?
And then you-
I don't
But I don't
and
know
then
understand.
you, and then you
And how-
malign them when they find alternative ways.
or when they say,
to
you
do
know
it.
what, if I'm gonna be poor, why I gotta hustle and be poor? Why can't I just be poor? Like I'm gonna just be poor and see what happens. Like
Yeah.
I don't understand. And how do people keep getting elected? Like it's like I think it's all like a smoke and mirrors that says,
Yeah.
oh, but we saved you money on gas. Listen, we've been like saving Americans money on gas. We don't pay nearly what anybody else pays
the
anywhere else
world.
in the world. So like, I don't understand. I'm very confused.
Well, I feel like I understand.
Ooh, tell
and
me.
it's just that this country hates poor people.
This
and
not just poor people. This country hates people
Yes.
that don't have money.
That's
like,
right.
A lot of money.
And here's the thing about
And-
child
and-
care. You're talking about 80% of the workforce with
That's
child
right.
care. I mean, you remember I wasn't poor. Child care was the most expensive thing we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most
And I
expensive
was
thing
home half
most
the time with the
working people
kids.
with parents do. And they have to make a decision.
You have to make a decision.
You have to make a decision. Oftentimes that decision is what? At the expense of women.
Yes.
What we're really saying is women should stay home and take care of kids, but nobody really means that
'Cause we're not
because
gonna
women
support
are
that.
half of the workforce,
Right, and it's
we're
single
not
moms.
amazing
Yeah.
economy if we don't have women
So
in
you're
the
saying we
workforce.
blame them if they're home because they're not working.
We are damned if
and
we
then
do,
if
damned
they go
if
to
we
work
don't.
and say you're not going to have child care, so
That's
you can
right.
afford to go to work.
And we are in a 2-year period. I guess at this point, it's more than 2 years. It's like 24 months and a day that has been uniquely bad for mothers. It's been bad for all of us, right? But it has been uniquely bad for mothers in this country. There are millions of American women, especially moms, who have left the workforce. And that burden has fallen disproportionately on Black and brown women, on Indigenous women. But across the board, you have people who have made choices that they didn't want to have to make. And they had to for their families.
Okay, can I, if we agree on that, can I
Yeah.
pivot to the gas tax?
Go ahead.
I
let's
don't
talk about
agree
gas.
that we're caring about people when we say we're going to have you pay 25 cents less a gallon of the gas
No.
tax. I'll tell you why.
No.
No.
First of all, if those same people would save more if there was affordable child care. Second of all, we did have a climate emergency until 7 minutes ago, and we were trying to change from gas.
7 minutes.
Third of all,
Now it's all gas.
the way
everything.
we talk in election years about what's hurting people and how you fix it, it is hurting people, the gas price. A lot of things are hurting people.
Yeah.
The fixes are always fake. Like when you give somebody a tax rebate, like
fake.
Roland
They're
did one year,
temporary.
you think you're getting $10 now, but in a way that we're cutting some other states' spending that would produce economic benefits, so you'd make a lot more money. And third of all, in the week that they decide to come together to cut the gas taxes, prices dropped at 7%.
And that's
I mean,
because
this
they're
is a cyclical
artificially
thing.
high, but we are not
Yes.
talking about
Well,
that.
there are a lot of factors to that. I don't
Mhm.
claim to understand it. Some of it's real, some's not. And it's production, and there are good arguments about whether it should temporarily increase production or not, or whether it's being used as a front to have the fossil fuel industry regain the upper hand in the debate, whatever. There is no real public policy reason, in my view, ever to have a temporary gas tax holiday. And it's coming at the expense of true needs like childcare. That's my piece. You can agree.
And
We
you
don't
you know,
disagree.
the other part of that for me is the high gas hurts a lot of people.
That's right.
And if 25 cents or 50 cents is going to break somebody budget for gas, then clearly we're not paying people enough money at some level to sort of get to work or
What
get
if we
to
had
where
mass
they got to
transit?
go.
Now, it's not for
we
everybody.
don't- we
You
don't
have to have
care
the
about
option
mass
of driving.
transit.
It's
We don't
all
care
for the
about
people
mass
who have the
transit.
tightest budgets, who have the least options with mass transit. But like Brian Lamar, right? Brianna Lamar. Did you read her at the Independent Word on the Street? She was on Babs' show with Courtney. Her car broke down right before gas prices went up.
Yep.
She said, I can't really afford this. So she started taking the bus and the train, which is a schlep. I actually wouldn't do it. I wouldn't go take the whistle bus and train. It's too many hours out of the day.
It
It
is.
takes a
And
lot of
she's going
hours,
to
it does.
Darien, but it's near Darien, her shop that she manages.
She's Darien and Fairfield,
Yeah.
so she's back and
And
forth.
she's loving it. She doesn't want to go back.
Oh, who wants to drive?
That's
for real?
what we
Like,
want to
you
get
can
back
avoid
to.
it.
Well, yeah, me too. I like walking and
I
biking,
prefer,
but like
yeah.
when you can, I like the bus actually in New Haven.
But we need more effective public transit. I mean, I think everyone in this room
So instead of cutting the
agrees.
gas tax for a temporary fake holiday, why don't we boost mass transit?
Yeah, and incentivize using public transit.
Well,
I mean,
you're
there-
a
It just
roommate-
bothers me that we have these economic development conversations and transportation seems to be so far off
because
that we don't
all
even
of-
include it at the table.
because everyone running the DOT has a car.
Except
has a car.
the new head of the DOT, the last 2 years, grew up in New Haven, right near Union Station, loves mass transit, and has embraced everything we want to do. And it's still not happening. A roommate of one of the pundits here was covering a press conference where it was announced, hey, we're getting electric buses in 18
roommate.
months. That's great. But then he thought to ask, hey, weren't you spending 10 years on a study to make bus transit
Oh,
better?
Lord.
Did you spend $1 million on that budget, on that plan? Didn't it
Yes.
finally come out in 2019?
It did.
They said, yeah. They haven't even yet drawn up a plan to hire a
right.
consultant to plan how they might put that plan in place.
I mean, again,
Isn't
this
that
is-
deep?
this
Isn't that
is-
deep? But we can cut the gas tax for 3 months for some fake pretend to tell voters we're helping them with their budgets.
But again, like this is not hard, right? Like we can fix America, put people with lived experience in positions of power. Boom, done.
But we do
Fixed
have the
America.
president of DOT. He's the 180-degree opposite of the last DOT person, and it's moved the needle in some ways, like reopened that street by
But
Columbus
I'm
Ave.
talking about the person who has the job on the post road, who has to go to the green to do a transfer in the morning, and that doesn't make any sense
It's
because
crazy.
they live in Fairhaven
Right.
Heights,
Crazy.
and the 212 isn't running over
Yeah.
the bridge anymore,
It's
so they
crazy.
have to take a bus to go around.
But here's
and
the
all
thing.
of a sudden, they've been taking the bus for 3 hours to get to their minimum wage paying job, right? There are so many people in New Haven who have that experience, whose time, which is their greatest resource, is being squandered.
Right, that's why we need that Move New Haven
That's
study, and
right.
that's why, as your roommate pointed out, 10 years is kind of weird. for them
Cannot
to
put
happen.
an overarching point on it. And it's the gas tax. It's what we talked about daylight savings times, which is,
You always bring it
again,
together. I
this
love
is the small thing that people can agree on.
Yes.
This is the small thing, because what they won't agree on is that, oh, we need to make it easier for people to get, people that we want them to come to work. We don't want them to actually think they should live here.
That's right.
We don't like this this is happening in Atlanta. It's happening in every major city. Like, we want you to come to work. So you lady who takes care of my children, so I can go to work. I want you to come from wherever it is you come from to come to work. I don't want to pay you enough that
that
it's
you live
easy
in
for
my neighborhood.
That's right. Come in.
or that you can get enough childcare so to take care of your kids wherever they are and whenever they get home. Or that you can come live somewhere close by so it's not as hard for you to come to work. Like, we want you to come to work. We don't. This is why slavery worked so well in this country, because none of those people who can afford to actually pay more for labor want to pay for labor.
right.
And what labor really costs, so many things. I even learned this when I was just a young person with a new job. The fact that they made me pay out of my $4.75 for my uniform told me what I needed to know
that's
about
bad.
how labor
That's
is treated
bad.
in this country.
That's right.
bad.
This was at Taco Bell, a corporation before I really knew it. Probably had plenty of money.
What was it like to work at Taco Bell?
Oh, it was awful. I was working at a Taco Bell. It was the year between, or the summer between high school and college, which was very good for me because it's like, I know I don't want to work minimum wage. That's what I know. I know I don't want to be a mom raising kids on, because that's where I was meeting women who were raising kids on $4.75 an hour. And, you know, we were in a military town in a little podunk city in Georgia. And so you got drunk GIs coming to the drive-through at the very close.
Well, at least you had the
and we were
drive-thru
the
pilot, yeah.
latest, we
Oh,
were the only fast food restaurant in this little town that was open till 2 a.m. No.
Did the glass protect you?
Did who protect me?
The glass.
Oh, we didn't have glass back then.
So
This is the
drive-thru?
late 90s. Like, you got to hand the 10 box of tacos out the door.
So can I throw one more labor issue into the mix? The state legislature is considering a bill about something that makes what you just described even 10 times harder, which is people's hours. So now when you work those jobs, you got to arrange childcare if you have it. You can go home and close up Starbucks at 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. and then on no notice have to come back at 6 a.m. to open. So they're trying to pass a bill.
We hate
George
people.
Cabrera's
We
working
don't
on
So
like
why
it.
don't they just say slavery?
Right,
Like,
'cause that's really what it
indentured
is.
servitude. Like stop saying it. Just stop saying all the other stuff and call it what it is.
Because the exact opposite of the great resignation of people, not just in higher income jobs leaving their jobs, but even people in lower income jobs being like, nope, I'll go find somewhere else to work. Like what people are saying is what we're trying to say is we are free people and we can vote with our feet. And the fact that corporations are like, and politicians in cahoot are like, no, you're not. Like we're just going to make the rules harder. We're going to make it as close to slavery without it actually being slavery. So you don't know the difference.
That's
That's
a
rude.
thought here for
This is
Pundit
rude.
Thursday on WNHH, New
We
Haven's home
don't
for
like
Community
people.
Radio, 103.5
That's
FM,
awful.
live streams, NewHavenPen.org. The Thursday Pundits are running down the stories of the week, and I'm going to do something that isn't very nice.
Oh, gosh.
I'm sorry.
what?
Oh.
I'm going to bring up a subject that's...
I was about to say, you about to slave catchers? We
No,
were just talking about
I'm going to
slavery.
bring up a subject that's a little in the weeds to try to
Uh-oh.
describe, but it
Okay.
matters to everybody whether you own a house or rent.
Okay.
Okay, hit us with it.
Ready? Reevaluation
Yes.
phase in.
It's the Matrix.
So
Follow that.
I would argue that for very,
Come on, Reval.
very positive and good intentions, the city mayors is doing something that in every way is going to have the opposite effect and screw up a lot of things in the city.
Oh, it is gonna
Because
hurt.
like every mayor that I've seen in my lifetime that I've really covered closely, starting with the Lido, City Hall said, oh no, we had to do this reevaluation because we don't do a full reevaluation every year. We even kind of do a half-ass one every 5 years, right? So like, so then all the property values in town get out of whack. Some properties get a lot more valuable. So until you do your reevaluation, those people get a great break, right? They're paying a lot less on taxes in the house than they're worth because they haven't, the updated value's not there. So if you're buying that house, you got to pay a lot, but you're still paying taxes, though it's not worth anything. Meanwhile, in other parts of town, property values have gone down, right? You've lost some value. That happened to me when I was, right? So like, you're paying taxes as though it's worth more. So it makes sense to fix it by reevaluating property, going around saying, here's what stuff's worth now. So every time you do that, there are winners and losers. Every time you wait 5 or 10 years, it's much bigger winners or losers. So rather than every year you might pay $50 or $100 more in tax than you were or less, all of a sudden it becomes thousands. And people go ape about it, right? So like, and so what every mayor ends up doing to get, and the people you're going to hear from, if now in balance, there's just many winners as losers, maybe even more. And most people, it isn't that big effect. But so people really hurt hard are the people who make the most noise. Until this year, that was always people in rich neighborhoods because it was East Rock and Westville that went way up. This year, the opposite thing happened because of speculation in poverty housing. The big change was the other neighbors had gone up so much that now East Rock's going to cut a break, right? And they did get hit really hard last time. And the luxury developers and the poverty housing is what's gone way up.
So are those people going to pay more?
If it were phased in right away, they pay a lot more. So like, so here's what happened. So the mayor said, just like everyone before him, because I know we love to hate on the mayor, but this really doesn't make him evil. It makes him no different from every predecessor who tries to fix a problem, makes it work by trying to fix it. He said, well, to cut these people a break, the working class homeowner in Fairhaven and New Hallville, I'm going to phase in over 5 years your increase. This revaluation is all new properties, what they're worth now, but we're going to do it 20% a year. So if your taxes were going to go up 50%, they're only going to go up 10% the first year, then 20%, the first year, then 40%. So you're, instead of paying immediately another $1,000 a year, you'll pay $200 more a year the first year, then $400. It'll be gradual. But there are two huge problems with that. There are a lot of other people who have been subsidizing them because their properties didn't gain that much in value. So all these other people you're not going to hear from, including in working class neighborhoods, are going to be continuing to subsidize the people whose big higher taxes get phased in. That's the first problem. But there are two other problems that Tom Breen, a certain roommate, discovered in one of the best articles we've ever published. He really got deep into the numbers. The biggest winners in this are these luxury developers, not even the poverty landlords. So the Corsair, remember the Corsair was built? So when they built that thing, that got worth a lot more once they built it. It was vacant, it was a vacant one-story
And
factory.
didn't they get some type of tax abatement?
So when you do something like that, and there's a public policy reason for it, we could disagree about or agree. So they say, your tax can go so much up, but if that's going to stop you from investing, we'll let you take 5 years to phase that in. So now we're always saying in New Haven, how are we going to benefit from all this luxury housing? We're always saying they're building these big expensive apartments, but policymakers, including me, I fall for this stuff too. We say, and I still kind of believe it, well, if you build the tax base, then Babs' landlord won't have to pay as much because we're building the grand list, right? There's some logic to that. But it takes 5 years to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because of this phase-in, it's going to take another 5 years.
I was going to say another 5 years.
So Corsair alone, because of the phase-in, is going to get an extra $500,000 a year of profit. $500,000.
Are they going to give their tenants a tax break?
Are you kidding?
I mean,
And
break
the
on their rent.
poverty landlords are also making big money that they're going to use to buy more.
Landlords never be like, here's $100.
So the poverty
off.
landlords that own
Are
a
we
lot
not
of
gonna raise your
property,
rent
like
this
Manny,
year?
et cetera, this gives them a big break cumulatively, so they can buy more of that property the city doesn't want them to buy. So everybody's screwed. So by the time it's now taking up to 10 years for some rich development to start giving us our benefit back, by then the values have changed again. So the next time you do evaluation,
Okay, is there
we're
any
gonna be
place in the
catching
country
up.
that does this better than we do?
Well, I think there's a simple way not to do it. Don't do it.
Okay.
Don't do it. Some
So just
are
let
gonna
people
scream at
take
you.
the hit?
No. Help the
Well,
people.
we do it because we think it helps. It attracts developers to our city. It attracts development here, and we want to be a city that's friendly to that.
But it's still
but
helping
also in their
some and
own
not
way,
others.
they're
Oh
trying.
no, I'm not defending that.
So it
But
doesn't
it,
ha- no,
but
no,
it
Babs
also
is
does
right.
seem like a
But
wave,
it
though.
doesn't
Like
happen in
some sections of the
practice.
city are going to get hit one on this 5 years, and another section of the city is going to hit.
So
in
it's
these
never
5 years.
accurate, and there's a point to doing evaluations to make things what they're really worth. Like, we haven't been taxing. All these people buying all these properties in this big tear in New Haven, they're buying it for a lot of money, but they're paying taxes as though it's not worth a lot of money. So this is supposed to be the time to catch up.
Yeah.
So it basically, but there was one proviso. Yes, don't phase it in, but do help the people who aren't the luxury developers, who aren't the poverty landlord. Help the people who are working class, own a home in Fair and New Hallville, and whose taxes are going up more than anybody else's. Help them with that extra money. Now, if they're seniors, they can already get that help. We have 2 programs in place. There are legal barriers to creating certain programs, but
That's
not
what-
others. We'd be getting so much more money. Let's set aside some of it. Some of the that $500,000 that's not going to Corsair. Let's keep some of that so other people don't pay much taxes, and some of that to help the working class homeowner in Fairhaven, New Hallville, who's getting the hit with that marginal cost.
So why won't they do this?
Because they're defensive. They get hunkered down. First of all, I think it's too complicated for the
Okay.
alders. I hate to be such a snot,
No, it is.
but it is too complicated
no,
for
no,
the
no.
From
alders.
Alder.
Oh no, it is. It is.
So the
it is way
simple
too
thing-
complicated for them.
but-
and we have a mayor who does not have imagination to think about this. He just wants the easy fix that doesn't allow him
Right.
to get blamed for
But
it.
he's no different from DeStefano.
Well, I don't care if
and
nobody's.
Hart
What, you
didn't
know
have
what
to
I
deal with this.
want?
He was no different from
I want
DeStefano
some
and
innovation, and I want somebody to say, you know what, whatever other people did is not my deal. I want to be the mayor of innovation, and I want to do what the fair thing, and I want to make sure. I want that.
And
I
if
don't
we can't,
want,
if we
let's
can't
keep doing
if-
what
if
we always did.
and if we can't do that, I would wish they could at least receive new information. Look at the numbers that Tom Breen came up with that were vetted by his own people. We spent days making sure these are vetted numbers and say, okay, it turns out this, because the intentions were good. We want to help the working class owner in Fairhaven and New Hallville. We're ending up helping the worst actors in the market and making sure there are no benefits to our society to everything we've been doing to help poverty landlords and luxury developers make a gold rush profit here.
who we
So
can't
I'd
even
like to
rent
be
from.
I'd like to be able to adapt from mistakes that we all can make and just make better policy out of it.
Again, this is the theme of the episode: low hanging fruit. People are
Well, but
just
it's not that simple because people are
but
still going to yell.
It is also.
If you're an
it's not
older-
that simple. It's going to take some actual effort to do the types of things you're talking about. But again, what you just said is that this mayor, like previous mayors, is doing the thing they can always get done.
I would
That's what
actually
you
argue that
said.
unlike the previous mayors, he doesn't learn from his mistakes.
Okay, now you're just being mean.
Okay, that's me. Separate. Put yourself in the position of Richard Furlow or Ernie Santiago or Devin Avshalom Smith. So policy-wise, I think we can agree that this 5-year phase-in is crazy. It's going to not do what you think it would do. But you're still going to hear from a real person if you're the alder. You're closely
Absolutely.
connected to your neighborhood, and you're going to hear from someone who isn't quite yet ready to. So if it's a senior citizen, say, look, I can help you out. There are 2 programs in the city. We can get you the money so your taxes don't go up. But there's going to be someone who works at Yale cleaning up after the ice hockey rink like this morning, who's not yet 60. You're going to get someone who's 40 years old, a single mom, working the kind of schedule you're talking about. They own that home. They got it from Neighborhood Housing Services on Winchester, right? Like the people there. Their taxes are going to go up, and it's going to hurt. And it's going to be like $1,000 they don't have. So as an alder, you think about, you remember you were an alder, Babs, right? You're thinking about the citywide picture that this thing doesn't make sense for the greater number of people. But you're thinking about Mrs. Clark. And as an alder, you will make Mrs. Clark's life easier if you help make the phase-in happen. You're going to screw up the city, but you're going to help 10 Mrs. Clarks, who are the only 10 people you're going to talk to, and their story's going to be real, and you're a good person, so you're going to care about that.
I just think, Paul, I'm with Markeisha. This is low hanging fruit because there is some other way to sort of offset or support these folks, because this is not the majority of the city.
That's
number
what I'm saying.
one.
That's what I'm saying.
We get creative and think about how can we make sure we create a safety net for those people. We get in a room with people, you hammer that out.
That was our argument.
Right? That's
Yes, and we have all of this ARPA funding, American Rescue Plan Act funding.
The problem, the trick with that is that was my first thought. We're getting $100 million, which I think we've really been unimaginative about, and we've even done some things there that aren't even going to help the
use
problem.
some of that money that Yale anteed up.
Yale was the answer because with ARPA, the problem was you're not ever allowed to use that money to affect taxes. You can't do anything related. In other words, they put in a proviso there that you can't. Well, because we were worried that Republican governors were going to lower everyone's taxes rather than give them the help.
Then do what other people do. Don't call it taxes. Call it something else.
Yeah.
Give it another name.
I'm with you.
There are
but
ways
also I'm with
of
Yale.
being-
You're with Yale at the table. Instead of getting this fake
correct.
center that's not going to work, just like it didn't happen in 1990 when we sold the streets. This is nothing. What they really wanted was they wanted their street. They got their street. And
Yeah, they got their
It's not
street.
the end of the world. But we didn't ask them for anything real.
I was about to say, why do they get to dictate that we want this street? We'll give you this money, but under these conditions.
Can we
I don't
talk
like
about that in 5 minutes? Because that was the next one. I want to finish the real estate because I'm with you. Let's hold
Because
that
that's what
question.
hustlers do.
Yeah.
Lucy, you were onto something here.
Oh no, I was going to agree with Babs. Call it something else. I mean, we have all of this ARPA funding coming into the city, and so far, at least for the 53 million chunk that we've been discussing most recently, there's a very impressive PowerPoint from economic development that has no tangible information, and that's what people in the public and also what the alders have been given. Like, let's get inventive.
Well, I think what they did is they asked
break some stuff, right?
If they're not doing that, what they're doing is they asked everybody what they wanted. That's the democratic process. They gave a little bit to everybody. So in my opinion, they actually didn't change anything. Like I was talking to one former mayor you and I like, even though we argued with him a lot, and he said, this is your chance to do some big things that give you long term.
Here you go, chance.
Like
Boom.
can you figure some new way to figure the pension thing out? Or could you do some kind of, or in the negotiations with DL2, do something called co-energy generation or high-speed internet or healthcare, public healthcare thing to do that really changed everyone's lives fundamentally, you know? But like instead you got a little piece for every group to make them happy, and you're not changing. Like they say we want to stop this mega landlords that are taking over poverty housing. People can't become homeowners, right? Because they get the houses first, they have cash up front. So we're going to put $10 million in their land trust. They're going to be lucky if that's like 20 properties out of 2,000. In the meantime, with this 5-year phase-in, you're making it easier for those same actors to free up cash to buy $50 million worth of property.
And what do they do? And what do they do to do that? They change the script so that when you don't see them coming, they come. And, I mean, it's the same old script, but they change it a little bit so that it looks like they're trying to do the right thing, but they're not doing the right thing. So we need to take a page from them people, not be coercive, but at least be imaginative.
There's no imagination.
And talented enough to sort of say, here's an opportunity. Here's a chance for us to do something to remedy this so we don't do this in another 5 years, so that we have a safety net, so that it's fair and equitable across the board. See, we don't have that in the mayor. What we have in the mayor is milquetoast. I'm going to go along to get along.
I mean, also, we have to talk about the $43 billion bouncy castle in the middle of town and the fact that they need to step up to the table, right?
Not the bouncy castle.
I really like that. I like
It's a good one. I love that.
Really good. Let's talk about
You know what?
that.
They
because
should
Markeisha-
use that.
Markeisha
They were
and Lucy
smart.
brought this up, so while I remind people that they're listening to Pundit Thursday, where the leading lights of New Haven journalism are provoked unfairly by me to express lots of opinions about things.
I don't feel unfairly provoked.
Let's switch
I
to what
sure
you're
Feel
talking about
just
now.
provoked enough.
So the other thing that a pundit roommate reported on this week is that a deal is going through, sailing easily, to approve a new 5-year deal with Yale, where they're going to increase their voluntary contributions to the town for $10 a year, then $2 million, then they'll be gone.
Which is nothing.
And
Can we
then
just say-
in return, they're going to be able to close off another block of High Street. The first block of High Street was closed off. They bought High Street block a block away the last time we did this
You know
deal.
what? Pretty soon we're going to be paying Yale rent to be
So
in New
this-
Haven.
to use New Haven, right?
So this deal
right.
in 1990, the first time they increased their voluntary contributions, it was the same deal almost. They bought a block of High Street, closed it off to traffic, and we sold them the streets. And they put a little bit of money to something. They said it was going to be a center work in New Haven on policy to have long-term change. That lasted 3 minutes. One alder, I won't mention, she's dead, called up, said, no, I want this money for the youth program because this person's running for re-election. That money was gone. Although the negotiators for the city, who actually were on leave from Yale, so they thought they're doing the best thing for the city, but really looking out for Yale, they actually thought that was going to make the big difference, the policy. Just like today, this drop in the bucket supposed center they're creating is really nothing. But people like me were really against selling the street. And I think we were wrong. I think the way they closed off High Street is wonderful. That was new
I was about to
urbanism.
argue
We can
with you.
all walk there, and they don't. You can walk there of any race, anyone in New Haven. You can walk there, and
Says the white man.
it's night. Well, I'm on that block. You're right, but I'm on that block, and I don't see. I could be wrong. I mean, but it's no different from. I think it's nice having downtown streets that aren't cars. I think a lot of downtown streets aren't cars. So what the mayor said this time is that I'll get flack if I sell the next block to Yale. Because Yale every time said, okay, you want some more money from us?
Give us
This
another
wasn't about
block.
City Hall. This is about the unions. The unions were kicking their butt. So they say, okay, we got a new contract, and we're going to throw, as Lucy said, they're $43 billion endowed now. This is a rounding error. We'll throw another $10 million for 5 years, but it's not even ongoing, so we're going to have to come back for them. In return, they want another block, and the mayor said, well, I'm not going to sell it to them. They're going to have a long-term agreement where they control it. So he did sell him the block, and I don't mind that part personally. I know I'm an outlier
How much
here.
is the Yale endowment?
$42 billion.
So what if they gave New Haven $1 billion? Just
give it.
just give them, just like, you know what?
Or
Stop talking to us. Stop asking us for a damn thing. Here's $1 billion. Stay out of our face for 40 years or whatever it is.
or actually got transformative, except a lot of folks, including Peter Salovey, don't want to be transformative, and those conversations
No,
have
he's
not
not.
been.
He's not. He wasn't hired to be transformative.
exactly.
I
That's what
also
I was
think.
about to
I
say.
also think.
You know who would be
he is-
transformative? Elizabeth Alexander, if she was president of Yale, she would be
yes.
transformative.
But also, that's not
Salovey
creativity.
is the gatekeeper and the bean counter.
But
But they're also
do-
not
yeah.
talking about how. I don't think there's imagination. I don't think there was an ask. Like
No.
I was talking to one former mayor. He within 5 minutes had 5 asks he had.
And this is where I was about to go. So I have this vision in my head. You remember that scene from A Christmas Story where the bullies are beating up Mikey and his little friend. And so instead of the friend ever actually getting into a fight with the other kids, he just turns around and gives him the back of his arm and starts to scream, "Uncle." I feel like that's the way we go over to Yale and ask them for money. Like, we don't have any power. Like, this is
But,
not
you
our
know, the
town.
Yale
It's their
unions say
town.
this is a great
And they
new era.
have the bank and
know.
they have the money. And because they have the money, we have to go hat in hand every time. And it's not actually a negotiation.
Yeah, like we're
No.
the guests. Like we're a guest in our own city.
So do you
Right.
disagree with me about closing off that next block of High?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
You know why? Because I think we make it too easy for them to do it. That's my problem.
So what if we had a good ask?
But we don't.
I have
But we
I have 2
should.
asks right now.
What,
They
Are we
return-
are we
By
still
the
in
way,
the asking
for-
phase, or is this already done?
No, I'm
Because I
saying
will
no, it's
go
already
with you
done.
and say, listen, this
Yeah.
is how you
If
gonna
they
get
take
this
babs,
straight.
there'd be some ass.
Yeah. So if we had said, because I actually want that result, I want
I'm
pedestrian
with you.
boulevards.
I want more
But
pedestrian
in
boulevards
return,
in our
I would have
town.
wanted
I
2
do.
things in addition to the increased funding. I would have wanted a one-time payment to help me renegotiate pension terms, so that people who currently work for the
I
city.
would want them to let us have access to their buses.
Yes, access to buses. Renegotiate.
I said that this morning, too.
Renegotiate a one-time payment to help us do a structural change to our city budget that helps them too, so that current retirees will never and workers will never lose out, but that terms can change so that long-term we can afford the pension rolls. And second of all, I would have liked to done some creative project like with this homeowner thing. Have a fund for owner-occupant
Give us $1
working-class
billion.
homeowners.
Just give the city $1 billion and stay out of our way.
I don't want them to give us $1 billion in that same way, because the same unimaginative people trying to spend
Well,
the
that's
money
what-
from the
that-
American
yes.
Recovery Act are going to be the same people trying
Well,
to figure out
let's
that
prove
billion
your
dollars.
point.
But
That's
here's-
the point,
let me say
Markeisha.
this
That is
last
the
piece,
point.
though. And sort of to Lucy's point about transformative, understanding that the leaders at Yale are not hired to be transformative.
And the
But-
leaders at New Haven.
Well, that's a whole nother situation. But what I want to say is this: what would it look like if, given the kinds of histories that a Yale University has, if they actually were like, okay, we're gonna stop being so resistant to what is they want things out of New Haven. They want it to be a place where their students and whomever come, even if they don't want them to go anywhere else but Yale's campus. But if you're going to buy up all of our city and we're going to sell it to you, like, what does it look like to make it the model city that it could be? And to actually be involved in transformative policies that make this the kind of American city where people are like, whoa,
You need a new president.
what are you
That's
doing?
Of course, the last time Yale did
You
that,
need a-
the
you
whole
need a
city
new-
now resents. They did the model city with the Yale research
But I'm not
and the
asking
money.
Yale to do
we
it.
became
I'm
more of a-
asking people in this city to be involved in a process that remakes this city in a way where we actually do the things that we say we want done.
Yeah.
So even if it doesn't happen anywhere else in Connecticut, it happens here.
Yeah, I mean,
That would be dope. Like, I would love to see that happen.
no.
I know it's not going to. I know it's like a pipe dream. But again,
Well, when
imagination.
Babs was
I love
at
it.
Alder-
No, I
Babs,
love it.
weren't you in Alder when Rick Levin became president of Yale and DeStefano
Yes.
came in? And I think they really tried to do that for a few years. Like, they did the home buyer program, which I thought was deep.
Yeah.
Because that was all levels of people
I mean,
working
people
at
got
Yale.
mad because they kept it limited to Westville and Beaver Hill, right?
No.
And then over time it broadened out to the rest of the.
And then it stopped.
Yeah.
So it worked. So Dixwell was a different place because of Florence, the Francis Hunter Drive. Some of those streets in Beaver Hills that were not the wealthier streets, they're different places, I think, was the home buyer program. And that was a really good social policy. And I thought the...
no, I think it was a great social
and
policy that they
Promise-
should kept up. That they
Promise-
should.
And that went by, was it Promise New Haven? So I think there was a moment when that happened. I think it was different kinds of people. I think we're not... That's
I think Yale has to feel like.
Like, this can be a feather in their cap. Like, even if it's to shut everybody up, all the liberals, all the people who are screaming about racism, which rightly so.
Yeah.
But like, to be like, okay, let's see. Like, if we're the best at whatever it is we think we do, if we lead the world, if that's what we think, what does it look like to lead right here? Like, to
Yeah.
start at home.
And to
Because
your
you're
point,
running off
we're
to
off the
Africa,
radar.
you're running off to China doing God knows what. What you doing here but fighting with our city leadership over everything?
And to your point, it's a different era. Like, after the Christian Prince murder, when the Yale student was murdered by the 15-year-old kid from New Hallville on Hill House Avenue, that kind of ended a period where Yale was getting a lot of bad press and they were losing professors and students to Stanford and Princeton. They hired Rick Levin as president with the mission to be better with New Haven and make it a better place. That's gone. Now they hired him saying we want our relationship with Singapore. Now that's over. Now it's about getting hedge fund money for like prize, competing with Harvard for building Endowment even bigger and having, edifices like this new Sportsman Center. And we're not on the radar anymore. This was like, we're getting
That's
this little
interesting.
problem and pay off. But to Marquisha's point in response to Babs, so she said the blank check might not be enough. So I think something else happened this year with this budget in Yale. So for our entire lifetimes, people have said it's unfair the way our property tax system works. Yale gets off so much, the cities are screwed, we have to raise our money through property tax. If only the state would pay us a lot more for payments in lieu of taxes, Pilot. If only the state would give us a lot more, and if only Yale would give us a lot more, we wouldn't have to have such high property taxes. So this year it rained. The skies opened up. Unlike any time in our lifetimes, $100 million rained from the federal government. $50 million raised from the state, 100% more more than we used to get. It all came. It happened. Yale didn't give us what they should, but they gave us another $10 million. In the end, we're still proposing raising property taxes. So why would anyone ever believe that's true?
money- that
I
money
always
is the
believed it.
answer?
We
I
believe it
believe
right
it,
now.
exactly.
We're talking like we still believe it. If we would just get more from Yale, if the state did more, well, you know what? The state did it. We got the money this year.
I don't
You know
even
what? Yale
care
did
about
it,
that part.
And they
If
were
we had-
raising taxes. Why?
I think my beef with this is, and it's not a Yale thing. It's not that. It's the lack of innovation and imagination
Right.
that bothers me more than anything. With all this intellectual capital that we are surrounded
Yeah.
by, that we have lackluster and just
We're playing it safe. we're not
playing
trying
it
a new
small.
thing.
So how about
And
someone who?
I'm gonna just ask this question, and maybe you can answer. All this money that rained out of the sky, it all has some kind of provision, doesn't it?
Just the federal.
Just the federal.
The state
money is unrestricted.
and the Yale, those are blank checks, and they are specifically
Then again, it's a lack of
specifically the money
imagination.
that every politician has said would change the game. We got the money.
so change the
We
game.
got more money than we dreamed of ever getting, and taxes are still going up. Now, let's be honest here, okay? Let's be intellectually honest. I think I am at least, the person who always says, I hate people who get so mad at tax increases that, yes, taxes are too high because of the unfair system, but I don't mind paying a few $100s more each year if it meant we get more librarians, if we get more public health nurses, we get a little social emotional support in the schools, whatever. But
are we getting any of that?
right.
No.
Well, now we're proposing. I'm thinking maybe this has to be a year where people like me have to say, even though that's my bias, at some point there has to be a year when your taxes don't go up because the sky opened and everything we said we always needed came.
Right, because
And
it's not
maybe
going
we
to come
can't
every
get
time.
all the things we say we can get.
But if we had some imagination.
I agree.
I mean, that's the thing.
And the Barney bag. Sorry.
No. I mean, the imagination is like, that's the thing. There are programs that don't feel hard except for who the people in power are. Like UBI, Universal Basic Income, not hard to do.
It is hard, Universal Basic
Not
Income.
hard to
Where's
do
the
a
money
pilot.
going to come from?
Not hard to do a pilot. Things like healthcare and doing a healthcare pilot for folks who don't have access. Things like saying, what would it look like if Yale not gave us access to their buses? Because thanks to Tracy Mears, we can get on a Yale shuttle. And if we feel that we're being discriminated against, we can say you're not allowed to do that anymore. What if Yale got rid of that awful shuttle system
Yes.
and gave its students
I'm
bus
with you.
passes like SCSU, right?
So now I agree with everything you're saying, Lucy, except for one thing. You say this stuff's easy. I think public policy's hard. There are unintended consequences and strings on money, like Markeisha said. I don't think it's easy to have universal health care. I'm for it. I'm for single-payer health care, hands down. But Vermont passed it, and it turned out they couldn't afford it, and they didn't do it. And you and I would argue that it needs to be bigger on a national level.
Yeah.
It can't be like England and or Germany or some form of that, or France, although they have different versions too. So I'm with you. I just don't think it's easy.
I don't.
But I'm with
it's-
you, and I'm
it's
with
not
Babs
an
that
easy
it's
or
about
hard
imagination.
thing. I think it's the will. It has to be the will.
It's the will.
It's the will.
And capacity, imagination,
Yes.
learning from mistakes.
And also I mean, the elephant in the room is that like there are people who don't want any of these things. Like we're the people we might be the people in the room who think that like, and we do that people should have easy access to health care and it shouldn't be tied to whether or not they're employed.
Right.
Like those
Or
are the things that we
immigrants,
believe, and there are people
or
at state houses that believe that
undocumented.
too. There are also a good number of people at the state house who don't believe any of that.
That's right. Yesterday said housing's not all right. But you know what? I have to, I'm punished Thursday
If we
before
could
get out.
steamroll those people, then sure.
But one
we
thing I
can't.
kind of secondhand got this idea, but I haven't experienced myself. By watching the three of you on social media every day or what Lucy writes, I think New Haven is the funnest place in the world.
Oh, I agree.
I
it's a
can't
great
believe
city,
how many
yeah.
great things you guys go to. Like, I don't get out because I'm an old fart, but at least I have fun seeing. Like, every night you
city.
guys are somewhere doing something incredibly fun
'Cause it's our
and
city.
meaningful. That
great
last night,
city.
where were you, Toads?
We're Toads.
What was going on, Toads?
Tank
Tank
and the
and
Bangers.
Oh, I
and,
like that
and
group.
Corey
Corey
Henry.
Henry.
But you see, I
was
just know them from their NPR,
phenomenal.
what's it called?
Tiny Desk.
Yeah. So what was that
We
like?
could tell, but there are lots of people in there who only know them from that season of their life as well.
So tell me,
It's
what
like,
was
so
it
y'all
like?
don't know the words?
What was Tank and the Bangers like?
Oh, it was
was great.
electrifying.
It was so good. And Corey Henry, like I was not hip to his music. I didn't know who.
Yeah,
was
I
he?
didn't know him either.
Apparently, you said he
co-wrote Kanye's West Donda album.
right.
And he's nominated for a Grammy for it.
Grammy nominated, and he has this style. So he's apparently like a prodigy on the Hammond organ, and so like he's been playing it since he was 6. And when he came out and played this organ. I think anybody who is a music lover who loves like musicianship would just be blown. I was blown away.
And were people sitting or was it all standing? At Toast?
We were sitting
Yeah,
because
we
we're
were
old
sitting 'cause
ladies.
we're old
I
ladies.
feel that way. I go to like the Alta Cocker Hour at not Cafe 9. We get to sit, you know.
Yes,
What-
and so there were lots of people standing. It was mostly standing room, but it
And
wasn't
Toad's nice
over.
these days? I haven't been
I don't know.
back.
The floor's still sticky, but it's air conditioned,
And
and
how was the beer
air
or
was
whatever you got?
circulating. We had good beer.
Yeah.
And
They have good beer?
Yeah.
It's not just watered down giraffes.
No,
no, and
good
they
beer.
fill the cup up. I have a jacket that's well covered in beer now because I tried to carry 3.
And then you were at the Dorothy
of
Awards. Those
beer.
looked fantastic.
Oh,
Tell me
They
about
were,
that.
they were wonderful.
They
And
were
that was the
fun.
New
They
Haven
were-
Pride Center,
They
right?
were so
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, the Pride Center raised $50,000.
Oh,
which
did they?
is
I didn't know how
great
much they raised.
because
They did
their
it like
budget
right there, Mike.
It's $1 million.
in the next fiscal year is $1 million. And I just want to shout out Patrick Dunn, who's
Okay.
Oh,
the
yeah.
executive director. So Patrick
Kiki.
and I, Kiki Lucia. So Patrick and I started our jobs around the same time, I think like 4.5 years ago. And Patrick has grown the New Haven Pride Center from a staff of 1 person, that was him, to a staff of 15 full-time and part-time employees.
See,
And
see where
they-
the innovation is?
Yeah.
See where the creativity
Haven has
is?
that.
People who take a
And-
little bit and,
and
make a
I'm-
whole
It's
lot
not.
out
It's
of
not
it.
all about government. I think what's happened last generation is the non-government, non-corporate
Take
side
a
of New
page
Haven.
from
That's
the arts
innovation.
community because they know how to do it.
But
That's-
again,
that's
what do we
right.
do to those people? We say, well, if y'all can do a little bit with a little, do a little bit more with a lot
So,
less.
also, were you at Cafe 9? Didn't I see
Oh,
something?
yes,
Yes,
the Cafe
What was
9.
going on there?
The
I
Dakota
saw
Jones
Dakota,
band.
Oh, that
Dakota
looked
Jones
good.
and Fernanda and the what is it?
Fate.
Fate.
Oh, love them.
And how was that?
Fernanda
How was that?
and Fate. Oh,
Fantastic.
They're-
So
yeah.
tonight there's a Kalita and Super Yamba band.
Oh yes.
That looks really good. But how you guys? I, guess
I
you're
might
younger.
try that. I might
too.
try
We
it.
don't have little children at home.
Yeah, we
I
have
don't
little
either.
kids at home.
But I fall asleep at 8. You know. Okay.
So you take a nap.
And then Friday night at Terminal 110, Jerlisa Thomas, Grace Flood had a story about a woman burned out of Warner Street apartments, that big fire in Hamden. She was developing a fashion business on her line called Chem. And it was kind of a little Victoria's Secrecy. And most of her stuff was destroyed, but her sewing machine wasn't. And she's doing a big event. She has everyone modeling.
yeah, I saw
ready.
that. I saw
Terminal
that.
10 Friday night.
I
I
saw
love
that.
Could be
this
the
story.
fashion
Everyone
set.
should read
50
this story.
Shades of
It was
Kim.
beautiful.
50 Shades of
Kim.
Kim.
I like it.
Is it in the arts paper?
No,
Okay.
Nora. It's
How
all
about
Nora.
St. Patrick's Day? I heard that 9,430,000 people were there. Every year at St. Patrick's Day, they always give an official number, which is the largest parade ever. But if you go there, it's like the sidewalks, there are plenty of big gaps. I mean, there are a few thousand people there. We always say thousands because we just don't want to lie. We want to make them feel bad.
You know what? I thought that parade was overkill. Like they just like News Channel 8 just started like they started at Christmas talking about this.
I think people
if they
also
don't
felt
shut
good.
But
up
they were-
about this parade.
They were like, it's been a minute, so we're excited.
But people felt good that people were out again.
yeah.
Weather
What Freddie
cooperated.
Fixer looks like it's not happening, huh?
You know what? Let's go.
There's, yeah.
It's like,
There's gonna be
I
a.
gotta go.
we will have an article in the Arts paper about it, but June 4th there's going to be a Freddie Fixer festival outside
Yes.
of the
Come
Q House.
celebrate.
Is that
Freddie
in lieu
Fixer
of the
Festival.
parade?
In lieu of the parade, but it
Are
will
you
be back
kidding me?
in 2023, and they have a new president.
Who's that?
I'm not going to tell you. It's my scoop.
Oh,
She
okay.
says, "I'm not
Okay. All right.
Okay. That'll be good.
Well, if daylight
I'ma go to the
saving
festival.
standard time is
I'll go to
somewhat
the
correct
festival.
for now, we've run out of time. Although we can
I'm
just
not
pass a
going to the
law with the
festival.
Senate and say we have a lot more time.
You know what? Time doesn't exist. It's all a construct.
That's
anyway.
true.
It is. It's all a
And it
construct.
sure as hell isn't linear.
Critical math theory, people. Critical math theory.
Thank you for joining us with the best pundits in the universe, flying high on Dateline New Haven's Thursday Pundits, and Harry Droz and Nora learning the trolls as well. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic experience, performing I Wish I Knew How It Feel to Be Free, turning the starkness of the light into the darkness of the night and duty into beauty. All right. Start say a second time. They're performing I Wish I Knew How It Feel to Be Free from the group CD A Plea for Peace. This is Paul
A
Bass
Plea for
inviting you to
Peace.
fly free with us all day and all night at WNHH New Haven's home for community radio.